Hello and welcome to my video blog. Today I will talk about an IT software topic called Selenium. This is not vitamin selenium that we see usually in a drugstore. This is about an application programming interface, in short we call API, used in IT software development world. It has lots of good stuff for test and test automation engineer in IT software world, but obviously you will not understand anything of all this if you are new in IT software world. Don't worry, let's get a high level idea of it. So what is Selenium in IT world? To understand Selenium, we have to first understand two concepts in the IT software development world. One is called software testing, and the other one is called software test automation. Let's get and try to get a high level idea of software testing first. Software testing is a process followed by one kind of engineers. We call them QA specialists in our IT software world. Now, if you look into this picture, this is a software development team sitting and working together. And this highlighted guy here is our QA specialist. Now, I'll take him apart from the team to get his work roles and responsibility to understand a little bit more better. Test engineers simply test a software. That's it. So a software is under development and test engineer test it in different direction. Let's get into a little bit deeper. Assume you have involved in a software development team as a test engineer. So you just think yourself as a test engineer for now, like this guy here. And the software that is under development and you are responsible for testing is a website like this. So this is like a website which is pretty similar like Facebook. So what you will do as a test engineer, that's you have to understand first, right? First you will analyze, and analyzing means breaking down each part of this testing requirement based on its structure and its functionality. So see here I have just blacked out two part of this page, and I just kept one part and I named it as a part 1, and where I will only test logo, site description, footer, navigation links and copyright info. Similar way I can black out all other part of this page and only take this one part which I call login mechanism. Same fashion I can also make a part of the registration process, and I can name it as a part 3. Now, it is the test engineer's primary skill to break things into smaller groups. That's why we call them quality analyst, right? So if you see, their main responsibility or skill set is to break down things into individual group and then validate them or test them or verify them. Now, testing, validating, verifying, they are pretty much same thing. It's all about go into that part and see the expectation is matching with what you are seeing actually. And that's another learning. We can see it in future classes. Now, you may be lost at this point, but don't worry. Let's have a quick summary. We are trying to learn an IT software tool called Selenium, and to learn it properly, we must understand the roles and responsibility of a software test engineer. And what is the roles? The primary skill set of a test engineer is to break things into smaller groups and then test, validate, verify each broken structure and functionality in different ways, in a negative way or in a positive way. Right? So if you see here again, the same picture, broke down part of individual broke down part of that website. Now we'll see a another example just to make it more understandable. Again, this is the same website. If you look into here, I'm again blocking out all other parts. So I'm a test engineer. I just blocked out all other part and I took one part from here, which is this part where I have the logo, the image of the company, the site description, copyright information, and you can see this red border, all the navigation links at the footer. Now, a test engineer basically, after he broke down, he wrote down some test cases. In technical world, we call as a test scenarios or steps, this kind of stuff. That how do I actually validate it when the application or the software is ready to test. If you see here, in one test case, I tried to cover all those information that need to be validated or test when the software is little bit ready. And if you see this writing structure here, the steps is given I go to this website and then I want to see the logo is present, then the center image is present, the site description is present, page footer section, and the copyright text is present. Pretty straightforward, right? You have to check it when you are testing this software. Same way, this part is a little bit different. You have to go to the website and then from the footer you have to click each individual link. Like you click the home link, then you should be in a home page. When you click the About Us link, you should navigate to a new page called About Us. This way you carry on. Now let's go and find out the other part. So this is the login part, and you will see a lots of test cases actually a test engineer can write as per the login mechanism. Now, because you cannot only say login with a valid ID and password and say that this is fine. You also have to go through a little bit negative scenarios or negative test cases, which is something like you put a valid ID but keep the password field empty and see what's going on. You should see an error. Hey, you cannot left the password field blank. Also, you can try both field empty and try to click the login button. Same thing, you need to see a error. This way, you can also test the email part. The sign up part. And here also you can put a good email and try to sign up. You can put a bad email, try to sign up, password restriction, 8 character, 9 character, and all those kind of stuff. So here is a quick summary again. So if you look or read this note here I prepared for you guys, is a test engineer basically find out one requirements from the development team, and the requirement can be something like this. If you see here, requirement number 1, we need to develop a landing page with company logo, blah blah blah, and login and registration mechanism in it, right? And then he analyze it, he or she, the test engineer, analyze it, and they break it down into individual feature. Now, this feature is a technical word in our IT. You don't need to worry about that. You see, this is the same thing like part 1, part 2, or part 3 of the same requirement. So landing, mandatory company required elements, and site navigation is the one part. Login mechanism is another part, and registration mechanism one other part. And then the test engineer try to write some test script regardless of the page is ready or not. They try to write it beforehand so that they can test it, and they write it as a scenario by scenario base, that what could happen if I go to that site and try to find out all the logo, and or if I try to log in with valid user ID and password. Okay, now let's see what is test automation. uh, Assume the same website that we just saw before, where test engineer worked, and that website development has started, and we are on the first month of the project. So one complete month will work together to develop this website. Now, in the first month, we planned one release where every 2 week we'll develop something. Okay, so every 2 week we will at least develop something. We will not keep the page empty. At least something will be there. Now, What will happen the first 2 weeks? Then definitely, if you remember, we just discussed, the software tester will actually create some test cases, and where we can get a count like this, like the he or she created two test cases for login page, one part of the page, five test cases for functionality of login, and five test cases for the registration. Now this is not the end of the software, right? So it can have more pages. So next 2 week, so in the release one, following 2 week after the first 2 week has been ended, they created more test cases on different pages, like there are home pages also. So when you log in, you go to a page which is a home page for a user. Then if you think like the software is pretty much like Facebook, so there is a post like comment functionality which can have 20 more test cases, setting where you can change your password, privacy, right? All those kind of stuffs can have more 20. This way we get a total count of 102 test cases in 1 month. Now this is the place where you have to be very concentrated, and you have to be a little bit focused. Now, what happened here? This first month, 122 tests, we call it manually tested, which means that the engineer basically come, a test engineer came, opened his computer, and manually performed all those tests, right? So manually perform this two tests, right? So test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, and test n. So this way he continues testing. And how many tests the manual manually has been tested? Total 120 tests has been executed, which looks fine. Okay. Now the problem comes uh, if we go for the second month of the project. So let's say now the development is continued, and we come up with the second month of project. And after completing the second month, you can see there are more changes came. There are more changes actually here. And if you look at the end, we have how many total new test cases for the second month. Okay, that's the $1,000,000 question here. So if you look here at the bottom, I have put it a question mark, that how many total tests. So all total you had 120 test cases for the first month, and in the second month project, which is again 2 week by 2 week, you got new features or new part from the application. All the new part total comes like 2, 5, 5, 10, 10, 20, and all those kind of things, right? Now if I click it, then I see the second month test case is also pretty much 102. So we have first month test cases 102, and the second month test cases is also 102. Just for a simplicity purpose, I keep these statistics. Okay, now is it really the total test is now 102? Now here is a very good thing you have to understand. This is a website, and inside this website is connected with other pages also. So this is the landing page, this is the home page, this is the setting page, right? So these are all pages, and in first month you have tested 1 or 2 into landing page, right, and home page also. And then you brought up more test cases, and also this is for maybe the first month, and for the second month also you have put it 102 test cases. Now problem is, if you test only these 102 test cases into the second month, then you will have a risk into your quality. And what is that risk in the quality? You have only tested all the features that is for second month. Okay, so you have only tested all those features that is for second month. What will happen if there is something changed into the first month then? Now this creates a problem, a very tedious problem into IT world, which means that if you manually test, then you cannot actually manually test only one or two for the second month. You have to also test all the old test cases, which was we call this. Okay, so if you look, we have to also first before the second month, before we test this new one, you must have to test the old 102. So what will be your total test cases then? So your total test cases will be basically 204. So if you see here, the new test cases generated as a 204. Now why it's 204? Let's see one more time. That it's 204 because we have manually tested in this current release. Okay, so we have manually tested in this current release 102, and we have other test days which need to be actually automated, but assume you did it manually 102, so you have total 204 tests needed to be executed. Okay, now let's go and see what happened if in month 1, so this is your month 1, you have 102 test cases. Then month 2, basically how many it comes? First 102 plus 102, so 204. Now think about month 4. So you have to say month 4 got 50 more test cases. Now you cannot just see this 50, right? So you have to say 204 plus 50. So you come up with more test cases like 4, 5, 254 more test cases month 4. Think about month 5, right? What will happen? Think about month 6. A project, if it's a big, think about month 7. So day by day, your test cases will grow. So it will continue growing depending on your project duration, but most of the time it will grow. Now, what you will do in this case, if you go and manually perform all this test, then you will land up with a very big problem. Okay, now let's see what is that problem. So this is your tester here. So this is your tester here. Let me draw it a little bit better way. So assume this is your tester here, and he is testing, and he need to perform all these test cases day by day, right? Then what will happen? One day he will run away. He will just run away and he will not do work. Now this is a problem with manual testing. This is a problem with manual testing. Okay. Now what are the problem of manual testing? Let's see. So if you look here, release to release test will increase. Testing manually will be tedious, time consuming, and maybe impossible. And this is true, right? It could be impossible. If your test grows day by day, it could be impossible, right? So manual test. So this is one manual test will need more testers. So you maybe hire more testers. So your company's cost will be increased. Manual test can also have error on critical part of the application. Now sometime it happened that you assign a tester, hey, can you test 100 test case in next week? Okay, and he says, okay, I will test 100, but he actually did 50, and he lied because he lied and something or something happened, he didn't did the other 50. So this is a risk, this is a quality risk. Again, you have somebody to make a test of 100 tests, and then he just tested 2, and then he went for a vacation, right? Then what will happen? The 98 tests need to be shift to this guy, and then this guy will again run away, right? So this is a problem. To solve this problem in IT industry, they introduced something called test automation. So at this point, test automation plays a very important role in IT industry. There are lots of different ways test automation help us. Okay, the main thing is that when the test case increase, so I have to draw another picture here. So assume you have this is your test bucket where you are increasing test day by day. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Now, what people do usually, they create suite of tests like regression suite. That this test need to be always test before we test anything. Now maybe you don't need everything. You can just choose three is a very important test need to be in regression. Five is a very important test. So you get one test, two tests, and then seven. These three tests need to be always. So day by day it will increase. Day by day this suite will increase. You can also have something called smoke test suite. Don't worry about what those things. Just think like some test cases listed down into a bucket. Okay, so from this 1 to 3, maybe 2 is a good candidate for smoke, and maybe 4, 5, 6, 6 is also a smoke suite. So these suites actually people maintain. Okay, now automation can be put in this place to run all those suite automatically instead of using a human capability. So it can run automatically. So that's one very big benefit of automation. Okay, then we can talk about something else about automation also, which is, let's say you have a application, a website, and it has a web table, lots of data into this table, right? Now you need to validate this data. Okay, so there are lots of data: a column, b column, c column, then 1 2 3, then x y z. Now there is a database somewhere where this same data is actually stored. Now you have to validate it. So the database contains the table and it contains lots of data here. Now you have to take this data and validate it here, and your test will pass, something like that, right? So automation can also come in this place. Instead of you go again and again into the database and find out huge amount of data, say automation, hey, grab the data for me and pass it here. Okay, so that is also another thing you can do through automation. Okay, lots of good stuff it can do. So in our IT world nowadays, there are solution already developed for automation. One solution is called UFT, Unified Functional Tester, which is a product, very good product also. It can automate any browser, and especially the power of this UFT is to automate standalone software. Don't worry about that at now because we are not going to discuss about UFT. But same thing, same solution is also developed by a company or somebody else called Selenium. Now Selenium is another solution of automation. Okay, now this one is basically the thing we are going to discussing. So you think like it's a machine already developed, right? And it can be used to automate that regression suite. So I just say that you have test case suite, right? So you have test case suite one, then these are test suite one, suite two, then suite 3, and what they contain actually all those given when and then, like how to go open a browser, right? Open a browser, go to a click a link, right? Click, then type something, right? All those things, type. So we can give Selenium to do this task instead of a human. So instead of somebody doing it manually, right, we can give him this task to do, so then he can perform it for us. Okay, there are lots of things about these tools, guys. I'm not going to talk about that. Let's go to the next slide. Now, manual testing is tedious and time consuming. Manual test will be costly for today's constantly changing, updating IT world. Manual test can cause human error. Manual test has no deal with today's continuous integration. Now, don't worry about that. This is another thing. But manual test is there is no connection with that. Okay. But automation is a good thing for this. Now, you look here. This guy is actually doing manually testing a website, and one day his situation is something like this. But on the other side, if somebody in our IT, a Q engineer or a test engineer, learn Java Selenium or Selenium, then he can just sit down, relax, and enjoy the Selenium is doing everything for him. Okay, so that is Selenium. Now, last but not least, before I wrap up this first part of the class, I want to discuss a little bit high level funny thing about Selenium, just you guys to give a very good idea and give you motivate you guys. So you can think like uh, you have lots of thing in your uh, kitchen. So look like this is your kitchen. So I just try to draw a kitchen. Okay, and this is some test or some item in your kitchen, and here is the place you need to move all your item from here to, so you need to move this item from here to here. Now you are the guy here, the test engineer. You can think like this is the test engineer. Now if he do things manually, so he will go choose this A, then he will go and place it to here, right? Instead of what he can do, he can train a machine or a software to do it. Now he need to learn the software, I mean train the software to do it by one time. So let's say this is Selenium, so this is a machine. So look, just think like this is a machine and his name is Selenium. Okay, and this is you again, and you have the power, you learn how to command him. So you just command him, hey, can you go and bring A for me? So he will go and bring A for you and place it to this section. When you train him this, and after that you just parameterize. The next thing you just say, now you learn how to bring A. Now just go and bring B, C, D and everything. So you sit down here, he will automatically go and place that. And he will do it because it's a machine. He will do it much more faster than you and without any error. Okay, so all we have to do here is learn how to train this robot, right? So again, what you have to learn is, so this is again you, right? There is a software called Selenium, somebody has already developed. You need to learn this. After you learn this, you have lots of test cases which you need to execute in a computer system, right? So you have to execute into a computer system. Now you tell Selenium, hey Selenium, can you work for me, which is just run those test cases for me, and he will do it. Okay, so that's all about test automation. Now in next class we will start looking into the Selenium software physically, which means actually we'll go to that website, and then we will install all those necessary things to start training Selenium. Okay, thank you.